Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you all for joining another Muslim Resource Services webinar today. We are going to discuss how we can support our Afghan brothers and sisters that are fleeing the current crisis situation they are in, and how we can help them and welcome them across the state of Tennessee. With me today are two amazing women that can let us know just what we need to know as a community to help across the state of Tennessee. Sister Sabina Mahidin is the Executive Director of AMAC. She is a Bangladeshi American born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. She graduated from Vanderbilt University in 1993 with a degree of mechanical engineering. In 2010, Sabina helped launch the Sons and Daughters of Abraham project, which brings Muslims, Christians, and Jewish youth across Middle Tennessee. Together through interfaith dialogue and outreach programs. Sabina has published a number of articles in the Tennessean and was an outspoken critic of the 2011 anti-Sharia bill in the state of Tennessee state legislature. She is a founding board member and currently the executive director of AMAC, the American Muslim Advisory Council, which empowers the Muslim community in Tennessee through civic engagement, community building, and improved media relations. She serves as the chair of AMAC's Early Empowering Women Conference. Additionally, Sabina serves on the board of the League of Women Voters Nashville and the National Organization of Workforce Diversity. She is the co-chair of the 2019 Workforce Diversity Bus Tour, and Sabina is also a member of the Second American Muslim Civic Leadership Institute cohort and the Muslim Power Building Project first cohort. She is in the 2020 cohort in the Muslim Power Building Project. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am just repeating that sentence. She is in the 2020 Leadership Nashville class and the inductee of the YWCA 2020 Academy for the Leadership of Nashville across Women of Achievement. Sabina lives with her family in Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Sabina.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Thank you. And here with us today is also Huma Rahmani. She has a master's in social work and she's a community volunteer. Huma is an Afghan American living in Knoxville, Tennessee with her husband and 5-year-old son. She has mostly worked in the medical social work field, focusing on direct patient care, setting up dialysis units in hospitals setting across the US. Currently, Huma serves as a volunteer for Bridges Resettlement Organization for refugees and serves on the local Islamic school board and Shafia medical board, which is a free medical clinic to those in the greater Knoxville area. Huma is personally helping translate and helping with resettlement social services. Thank you and barakallah fiki, Sister Huma. How are you doing today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Thank you for having me on this webinar.
Well, thank you too for being here. Today, we are all here to discuss what things that we can do. So now I want to start with Sister Sabina. For those of you that do not know what is going on or just would like to understand the situation a little better, Sabina is going to give us an overview of the current situation and the crisis situation. Go ahead, Sister Sabina.
Thank you, Hala. So as you all are well aware of, in middle of August of 2021, the US decided to pull out of Afghanistan, and that's after 20 years of war and occupation. And when it was announced that they were going to pull out, it was chaotic, to say the least. Nobody expected the Taliban to overtake Kabul in that short of time, and people were scrambling to get out. So I believe it was over 125,000 people were evacuated within like a 2-week period. But, and a lot of them literally were leaving in terror, and they were.
Ay,
they,
dyan na pag-ichapal.
hold on a second. Let's make sure
Ball.
we got everyone muted. Okay. And so they had only the clothes on the back. They didn't have time to really prepare and leave. And so the US has accepted 75,000 of these evacuees. And from Kabul, from Afghanistan, they went to US Air Force bases around the world, in the Middle East and in Europe. And then from there, they were relocated to 8 US Air Force bases in the United States. And that's where they are until they are ready to go to their final destination in the United States.
Thank you, Sister Sabina. Can you please explain the difference between SIV and and parolees?
Yes, so this happened in such chaos, and so in such a short amount of time, people were scrambling to leave. So people who were able to leave with the SIV or special immigrant visa were people who worked with the United States government, with US troops, whether as interpreters or translators or in other areas. So they qualified for SIV visas. Now, there was a backlog. A lot of people had applied for it, but they were still in the process of getting it. That visa, applies to someone who worked with the U.S. forces and their spouse and their children under 21 years of age who are unmarried. So that's one group of Afghans that are actually coming into the United States. Now, there were also U.S. citizens that were coming in, or immigrant visa holders. And so once they came to the US, they didn't have to go to any of the bases. They were free to go wherever they had family or wherever they chose. But you had the special immigrant visa holders, and some people were just in the process of getting their SIV visas, and they were allowed to come. And then you had a whole group of people who were fleeing Afghanistan because they were fearing for their lives. It was just unsafe for them to be there with the Taliban in control. And so the US allowed them to come also. So they weren't necessarily connected directly to US forces there. But because they were able to show they had some legitimate fear for their lives, they were allowed to come. Now, usually when refugees come to the United States, it can take several years through the process that's presently in place for US to receive refugees. Obviously, these Afghans did not have several years. They had 2 weeks to get out of there. And we saw those stark images of people literally hanging off planes. And so, so the way the US was able to bring that larger number, and of the 75,000 that are coming to the US, and that most of them are coming through this parolee status. And that was just an easy way for the refugees to come in without having to wait so many years, and an easy way to bring so many people so quickly. So normally, parolees, when they come to the US, they get $1,200 from the US government, but they don't qualify for public benefits that other refugees qualify for. And that was very worrisome to us initially, but the US Congress, through their last spending bill in the end of September, they changed the rules. And so they allowed the Afghan parolees to qualify for the same benefits as other refugee populations. So that was a bit of good news, but that's kind of the distinction of these different terminologies: SIV, parolees, and refugees. So it's easy just to say Afghan refugees, but still technically their status is parolee.
Thank you. I understand we are having a large number of our Afghan brothers and sisters that are going to be coming here into Tennessee. Sister Huma, do you know how many are already in Knoxville and how many more we are expecting in Knoxville? Sister, you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So currently in Knoxville, we have 40 Afghan individuals. So that could be just a single person or a family unit of 6 or 7. Bridges is the resettlement agency that is working with them here. And then we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we're having a lot of issues in finding housing for them. Although we could support more individuals coming because housing is an issue, there's a serious dialogue about capping it at this number and not bringing any more in because we just can't seem to find housing for them. And then we have 25 individuals in the Chattanooga area.
Thank you. Now, what partnerships, resettlement agencies, or any other partners are you working with, Sister Sabina?
So in Nashville, we're in the initial reports, was we were going to expect around 300 Afghans in Nashville, but now the numbers have increased, and probably by the end of the year, by September 2022, we know well over 500 Afghans will come here. And so when all this news broke about how many Afghans will be coming, we connected with the 2 resettlement agencies in Nashville, and that is Nashville International Center for Empowerment, or NICE, and Catholic Charities. So we've been working in close collaboration with those 2 organizations, but also with others. So we partner with United Way of Greater Nashville, and so we work together to put a welcoming Nashville fund. So because what we saw, and I'm sure Huma saw it too, but there was really outpouring from community members, seeing the news and seeing that, Tennessee was going to get over 500 refugees, that they wanted to help in some way, shape, or form. And so that's when United Way reached out and said, hey, what can we do? And we're like, well, we're going to need funds. And so we're working together, and they have they're raising funds to support all the work throughout Nashville with the refugees. But we've been working very closely with the Afghan Association here in Nashville, because we believe that the best person to welcome somebody new coming to to a place that is so different culturally, speaks, they don't know the language, is somebody who is from their country they originated from and speaks their language. So we've been working with the Afghan Association, making sure they're connected with the resettlement agencies, so they can be that welcoming face when the refugees arrive. We've been working with Councilwoman Zulfat Suer has been great in terms of really bringing different actors and organizations together. Community Resource Center here, Souls for Soul, WeGo, the public transit system here in Nashville, provided free bus passes. Metro Action Commission is on board to help out whatever way they want. So what we realized is there's so many Afghans coming in so quickly. I mean, already there's over 100 here, and that the resettlement agencies alone don't have the capacity to fulfill all the needs of the refugees. And that's why it is critical for us to bring in community partners to help out, because everyone has different access to different resources, and we want to be able to work together to at least start, give the refugees a good start. In West Tennessee, in Memphis, the resettlement agency is World Relief. And so we are trying to work with them so that we understand in Memphis what's going on, how many families are coming. I think their number of expected Afghans is 37. So it's not as large as Nashville, but we also know that even as Afghans come to other cities, people start migrating, and they may move into another city. So people might move into the Memphis area or to the Nashville. I think we have to expect that and be prepared. Also in Memphis, it's great. We have the halal food pantry with Masjid al-Mu'minun. They've stepped up and said they wanted to help out also. So, working for us, we've been working with the mosque leaders to make sure they're in a position to provide the help and support that they are in a unique position to provide.
Thank you. And Sister Huma, same question for you. What partnership resettlement agencies and other partners are you working with right now in Knoxville area?
Sure. So resettlement is different, state to state, or, even kind of city to city. So the way it's happening here in Knoxville, typically some resettlement agencies will take care of everything from basic needs all the way to their immigration services. In Knoxville, Bridges just takes care of basic needs. They provide intensive case management for the first, 30 days, but they can get benefits up to 5 years. And the benefits is more social service benefits rather than monetary benefits. And then in terms of immigration, which is these arrivals' biggest worry, getting their parolee status switched over to asylum, switched over to a green card, because as they came, a whole family unit was not able to come. The person who was able to get to the airport, the family member who was able to get to the airport and get out came, and now they want to apply for humanitarian parole for everybody else. So when I talk with them, their first concern is, when can I talk to a lawyer? Who's going to help me with my attorney and my immigration status? So here, both in Knoxville and Chattanooga, although I've not had any personal experience with the Chattanooga individuals, they come through Bridges, and then Bridges just tells them you need to talk to Catholic Charities. So currently the strongest partner in terms of immigration has been Catholic Charities. I unfortunately have not been able to, although we've had very generous community members who've come and have given me money to, help arrivals. My main focus has been in getting them help setting them up for basic assistance such as food stamp, Medicaid, TennCare, Refugee Assistance Program, which is a cash assistance program for until they get a job. As soon as they get a job, that kind of goes out the door. And as Sister Sabina, mentioned initially, each arrival gets about $1,250, which is supposed to last them about 3 months. And that's supposed to pay for rent, pay for utilities, pay for their food. If they go to a physician because they're sick, pays for that. So, that money gets spent pretty fast. So here in Knoxville, we haven't been really able to gather a lot of the social service or basic needs support. But it's mostly been a lot of help through Catholic Charities in getting their immigration paperwork completed. And then we have a local attorney here who's a Muslim attorney who's offered his time pro bono to help and do initial consultation and help them figure out pathways for their families to come here.
Thank you so much, Sister Huma, for all that valuable information. I am going to put in the chat box right now how people can email you or sign up for general information about Bridges and how they can volunteer for that in the chat box. Sister Sabina, can you give us any other updates about West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee and how the community could help at large?
So just a little bit background on what the process is. So working with Catholic Charities and NICE, normally they get 2 weeks heads up that a family is coming, but just because the situation is what it is, sometimes it's just a couple of days that they know family is coming, and they get the flight information. And so what we've been doing is we've been connecting them with the Afghan community, so that there's someone from the Afghan community to welcome them at the airport. And they've put together a welcome package, which has some spices, rice, the things, you'd find back home. Tea was a big thing. So, but, it's understanding that these families have been literally in the bases for a month or two. And what we've been hearing about the conditions of the bases is not so great. And then, so once they come, sometimes they are, it seems like, especially there've been a lot of individual men who've come, but sometimes, so they usually will put them in a hotel for a few days before they can sign a lease, so that, and then they have a place to stay. So, getting them food during those days is important. So what I've been hearing, there are apartments that some of these resettlement agencies already have a partnership with. And so trying to resettle them in those apartments, and they've been around Harding Road and around the airport. But as Huma, said, housing has been one of the biggest worries, especially in Nashville with the housing crisis. So that is a challenge. I know from the national level, the U.S. government has been partnering with Airbnb to provide housing too. And like, if you have a housing, unit, a home available to rent out, that you can do it through Airbnb specifically for Afghan refugees. So that's sort of some of the things that's going on here. What we're seeing, some of the needs in terms of recent arrivals, is some people only have the clothes on their back, and so the need of clothing has also been flagged. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about ways to volunteer and donate. So I'll leave it to go further into that later.
Thank you. Sister Huma, what has been your, is there any other updates, first of all, that you would like to give about Knoxville? And also, can you please discuss a little more about what are the biggest challenges and the needs of the arriving refugees that are coming into Knoxville are?
Yeah, so I think, as I've been working intensively with the new arrivals, I've just learned that, a lot of volunteers who are at Bridges, culturally, they may not really understand our food items or our spices. And, they take these individuals shopping. And then afterwards, they call me, they're like, so do you guys not have any grocery stores that we can buy like our food? Or their biggest worry is, getting halal meat. And they're kind of hesitant to ask, a non-Muslim about halal meat. So they're like, we didn't get it because we didn't know how to explain it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, no, there's stores, we can get you halal meat. And, we've had some younger arrivals who've never cooked in their life. And so literally yesterday on the phone, I was with them, teaching them how to cook and sending them YouTube videos, how to use an Instapot. Because their case manager said, if I could buy them one kitchen item, what would you recommend? And I said, Instapot, just buy all of them Instapot, because that's just a one and all. So they were so excited to use their Instapot, but some of these are younger men, as Sabina talked about. So it's just learning how to start their life on their own, because back in Afghanistan, when they lived there in Kabul for 20 years, they didn't know war. It was a free country, essentially, right? At least in Kabul, for individuals from Kabul. They're like, we didn't know what war looked like. We had heard stories, but we lived a better life than you guys live here in the US, because they would go to school, they would go to campus, they would go for tea in the afternoon. And they said the last 2 weeks when we left, we never knew Afghanistan could look like that. We never knew it could be that chaotic. So coming here, it's just getting in touch with young Muslims their age, getting integrated into the community, having somebody just kind of take them under their wing and mentor them and show them how to be successful. A lot of them have GEDs done or have finished partially part of their college degrees and need to get their degrees recertified here. I mean, those are long-term goals, but it's just getting into ESL classes, learning English, getting their documents, because as they left, they were literally given 24 hours to leave. So they couldn't bring any documents with them. And they've been trying to call the universities that they were at, trying to get documents to get it recertified. And so there's just a lot of social needs that need to be fulfilled among their basic, basic needs to survive.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, Sister Sabina, as a community, as individuals, as a whole, as Muslim organizations, what are ways that we can help lighten the burden of this situation and help our brothers and sisters that are coming in from Afghanistan?
So the Afghan refugees are not the first group of refugees to come here, especially from the Muslim world, right? And so in the 90s, we saw a large influx of Kurdish refugees and then Somali refugees. And, I myself, born and raised here, I don't know what that experience is firsthand. So talking to community members, the one thing they kept expressing, those who have been here, they've been here 20, 30 years, but they said when they initially came, it was just trying to find a sense of community. And that was one of the biggest things they said, like, okay, yeah, you need that day-to-day survival, groceries, transportation, getting to work, but just, you've left your home, the place that you love, you left family back home. So being able to connect to someone who understands you, understands your culture, is respectful of it, and helps you, kind of guides you on like how and I wouldn't say assimilate. I don't like that word, because you're not supposed to give up who you are or your cultural ethnic heritage when you come here, but how to integrate into the community. So how can you fully be yourself as an Afghan and as a Muslim, or whatever your background is, and be fully a part of the American society. And so that takes a lot of help and guidance from community members who've experienced the same thing. And I think all of us, even I, even though I'm not a refugee, but I know what it's like to sometimes feel like an outsider, and how do you feel claim this country as part of your own and part of who you are, while being true to your own heritage. So I think that's where our community can really support the new Afghan. Of course, there's clothing, and a lot of people have reached out to me like, I want to donate clothes. And so I know in Nashville and in Memphis, we're looking for a warehouse or storage space that we can actually collect. So we haven't been able to do so as of yet, but that's one thing we are working on, so that we can collect clothing, but household items, furniture, groceries. I think Huma's story about somebody wanting the halal grocery, not quite knowing how to bring it up with somebody who doesn't know what halal is important. But that gives people peace of home, like some sense of, yeah, I can still be true to myself while living here. And so, AMAC will be working with NICE to help them have a cultural competency video or training for their volunteers. So we wanted to make sure people who don't have the similar background, who are sincere and want to help new arrivals understand the cultural nuances when volunteering. But those are things I know, and Huma mentioned it. They will be needing legal services to change their status from parolee, and so that's where we need pro bono services. People need eye exams, people need dental exams, and under the services they should be getting medical services, but it doesn't cover everything. And then so prescription medicines, things like that, these are out-of-pocket expenses, and we all know can be quite expensive. So there's building a community for the new Afghans. There's that part of it. I know in Nashville, Islamic Center of Nashville, and probably in 2 weeks we'll have an event with new arrivals, but it's also providing things that they may need for their day-to-day lives. And so we have actually on AMAC's website, we have a web page on Afghan support. So AMAC's website, amactn.org. And then you go there and there's a page on Afghan support. So there are links to either donate financially. So we would use those donations to provide direct assistance for Afghans who need things, and you can donate, whether it's just for our general Afghan support, or specifically if you're in West Tennessee, we have a different link for that, or different designation for that. Or if you want to volunteer with Afghan families, so there are 2 links on our webpage where you can, for signing up in Middle Tennessee and signing up in West Tennessee. We also have links to Catholic Charities and NICE, and the work that they're doing. We have an Amazon wish list with Community Resource Center in Nashville, and there will be, I have yet, we can post it on the chat box, but I will upload the wish list that we have in Memphis, for the Afghan arrivals in Memphis. So there are different ways to help. Transportation, if you're a speaker of Pashto or Dari or even Farsi, there's a great need for interpreters. So there are many ways to help. You just have to have a sincere heart, and realize that any refugees come, they will, they are really looking to find a sense of community.
Yeah, I just wanted to add with that, I think one thing Bridges is looking to for the community is because Knoxville has gotten mostly one specific ethnic group from Afghanistan here. And they do have, they speak a different language, Turkmen, but they have a lot of young kids. And so they are looking for, adolescents who can tutor them with their homework, whether it's by Zoom, they would get volunteer hours, Bridges would provide that for them. I know a lot of parents ask me, what can my young kids do? Meaning, kids who are in their teens to late teens. And I think if they just went to Bridges volunteer site and just volunteered as being a tutor for the young arrivals, especially with their school, because they don't understand English and it's going to take time. Just reading books for them on Zoom would be a tremendous help in welcoming them and making them feel like there's somebody there for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
And in Nashville, like the school system is going to be overwhelmed with children. I think I've seen on the news, and I don't know how accurate, but about 40% of the new Afghan arrivals may be children, school-age children. So there will be a lot of need in terms of tutoring and helping them feel comfortable in the school setting.
Yeah.
Now, please take the opportunity and the chance to go in the chat box. There are all the links you need, all the information you need to contact Sister Huma in the Knoxville area, and Sister Sabina in Nashville. And you can contact me or her for West Tennessee as well. There are links to the volunteer form and links to actually donate. And please go ahead to the Afghan support page on AMAC. It's the last thing in the chat box. Everything is going to be on that page, and we will be updating it as we get things coming in. But sister, go ahead, Sister.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to emphasize, that you know, the Afghans will need jobs, and people have already reached out to me. But if you own a business or you know of job opportunities, I think sharing that either with us or with the resettlement agencies will go a long way, and understanding that some people will be coming with skill sets and they would love to have a job that is in their field, and then others will not necessarily have the skill sets needed, and job training may be something that they need. So I know, and this question has come up, so normally when refugees come, they already have their Social Security card and employment authorization document. In this case, just because the chaos that ensued, people coming from the bases don't already have their Social Security card. So the resettlement agencies are kind of trying to make sure they get that and get that work authorization document, because they really need that before they can work.
So we've had a lot of work around Social Securities and the work authorization, and you know, I have family who's volunteering at one of the bases. So I think what we have found out as of this morning is that when they arrive, it gets applied for, but because the system has been overwhelmed, they are not getting the Social Security card because they don't have permanent housing. So like there's 3 or 4 in families that we've had here who are, you know, 25 or 30 of the arrivals. They are here. If they go, we went to the Social Security office, if they type their USCIS, it says a Social Security card has been applied for, but there is no Social Security card in place. And then the families who came here in August, who were part of the first arrivals, the kids and the women are getting their work authorization, but the men are not, because there's probably just additional security checks. So although we're trying to find jobs for them, we're having an issue because we don't have a work authorization card for them to be employed with. And I think jobs is really important, and they're all really... Did you guys hear that?
Where? I think you're gonna have to unmute yourself. Okay. We can't hear you, Huma.
Sorry about that, everyone. Huma, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So jobs, as Sister, you know, Sabina said, it's really important to partner with the resettlement agencies and helping these individuals and arrivals find jobs. But, you know, the ask is that to offer them living wages. Because they're supporting a large family. And, you know, $10, $11 an hour just doesn't cut it. You know, I'm sure costs in Nashville, and I'm not sure what the cost in West Tennessee is, but in Knoxville, we're asking a minimum of $15 an hour because they have large families to support. And typically, you know, the wife has not worked outside of the home. They may have some trade skills.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So although the wives have, traits like sewing and cooking and things like that, it's typically the husbands who have, the trade skills or who've worked with the US or NATO alliances. So, when thinking about partnering with resettlement agencies, please really consider giving them a living wage to support large families.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for that. We have on the with us here today, Nigar Ahmadi, who works with Catholic Charities. Would you mind coming on the line and giving us an update?
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Nigar. I've been working with Catholic Charity for the last 3 months and started working with Afghans arrival. And I would like to just add a few more points that I think it's important. One of the things, I've been visiting all the families personally because I want to make sure to see their needs, also meet the families and see what they want. One thing that I wanted to say is, I agree with Sabina that it's important for them to learn how to integrate with their new community. Plus, we help them also and support them with the community that we have here, Muslim community, Afghan community, any other local community that they can support them. It would be really helpful. But one thing that I think it would be very helpful for us if we could help.
Thank you about that.
It's okay. As you all know, it's so important for all of them to first of all start learning English and then getting their driver license. I've been encouraging all of them. I have provided books for all of them, teach them how to use their phone, flashcards, everything that's possible so they can get their driver license as soon as possible. But something that our community could help if we had some volunteer help them, especially most of the women, they never drive before. So if we could have some volunteer, just show them how to drive, help them, because eventually they're gonna have to work, all of them, not just the man. The wife has to work because, with the pay that they will be receiving, both of them, they need to work. So this is a huge challenge for many of the wives and the women in our community that they never drive, so they don't know, and also their English is not good at all. They can't speak English. So we're trying to find a way to teach them how to pass the test. I don't think it is challenging, but it's not impossible because many other immigrants with no, English background have done it and they have their driver license right now. The other thing is providing them TV and internet. This is something that I've been working on to help and get some more donation because I heard Comcast offering internet for like just $10 if they have food stamp. I just heard from one of my volunteers, which if you could help them to get internet, and if there is any resources from community that we could provide them a small TV at home, it helps them a lot, not just the children that they can start learning English. It helps even parents, mothers especially, because they spend so much time at home. And this is a
I'm sorry.
so
There. Sister Hella,
So-
is there a way to block this person? I blocked him.
Oh, thank you.
I can't through him.
Thank you, Sister Lima. Yeah, we were.
So TV is one of my concerns. I want to also say that I started connecting them with their family mentor, which they're all American family, that they start working with them. It helps a lot because they help them to give them more of their needs, whatever they need. Like many of my mentor family, they provide them with TV, washer, dryer, like many other needs. But I know we have other resources that it would be really helpful if you could also have more community, like more family from our own community to start coming and helping them. Because I mean, it doesn't bother. We have one American family who are helping them right now, but let me just turn off the TV.
We do
Sorry.
on hopefully having events where we can start having the community members meet with them, and they can, you know, start befriending them and helping them and integrate within the community. We do have things in place that hopefully we are working on in the future for that. So thank you.
That's amazing. I will also be having a big events, and I would send the invitation for all the community leaders to just come and meet all the families in person, and also they can bring their flyers or what information that our family needed, because it is so important to introduce all the resources that are available in Nashville for all the new families, because they don't know anything. So it's our responsibility to give them all the information that they can use, because it's just, that's the other thing that I wanted to add.
Yeah, and Nigar, I mean, this is great, and we'll talk more. I know in 2 weeks we'll do something at the Islamic Center in Nashville here in Middle Tennessee, but we're working on a resource fair in December, and so we will definitely partner. And this is a great way of showing that it's through these partnerships we can really support the families, because there's going to be so much need, and no one community, one person can fulfill all those needs. So I mean, thank you, Nigar, for all that you're doing.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you all for all that you're doing. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. But for now, Sister Huma, what's your opinion, or how do you feel that the community can help out long term?
So long term, it's just helping them get integrated into the community, knowing that they have a community in the U.S. Because at least here in Knoxville, when they came, I wasn't their first contact. The arrival committee does not include Muslims, does not include an Afghan. So the few families that I've told about the Muslim community here, they're like, that's amazing that you guys have that in the US. We didn't know if we would get that. Just taking, they wanted to know about Jummah prayer, but they didn't know who to ask and how to ask. And when they got in touch with me, that was their very first question. How can I get to Jummah? And they were just so happy, because they said, since we've left in August, we haven't been able to go to a proper masjid to pray. So it's those little things. And, currently they're not driving. Transportation is an issue. So just having a community family to take them, and take them to masjid, after masjid, take them home and talk with them and just talk about life and hear their story, because it's a lot of emotions at once, right? It's that relief of safety, but they still have family back home that they're really, really worried about. It's, some of the fathers, they're in their 40s and they're like, am I going to be able to make it in this country? I don't know the language. I don't know how to drive. Am I going to be able to integrate? Am I going to be able to learn the culture? And then if I can't, what is the tarbiyah of my kids? What is that going to turn out? Are they going to lose their Muslim identity now that they're, not in a Muslim country? So it's a lot of, it's a spectrum, right? The spectrum of relief that, okay, I am not in danger anymore, but what is my new life going to look like? And am I going to be able to make it? And am I going to be able to give my kids a life that they deserve? So I think if we can get them connected with other families, especially those, who've come here a little bit older in their age, and seeing that, yeah, it can be done. It has its moments, right? It's hard. It's not going to be easy. And a lot of my time spending on the phone with them is just that counseling, right? And just that listening, like it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. I know you're living on $1,200 for 3 months for a family of 6, but we're going to work together and we're going to get better at it. I know Sister Nagar talked about driving. So I do just want to give this resource out. In the state of California and in the state of Virginia, they have driver's license books written in Dari. And then there's also a really good YouTube video that explains the general roadways in Dari. So I've shared that with all of our new arrivals. And the younger people, they told me we went over that 3 times already. And so, you know, obviously Tennessee road rules are going to differ and it's not going to be exactly the same, but at least it gets them familiarized with how roads work. Because, you know, my question to them was, well, when do you guys start driving in Afghanistan? And they said, when we can reach the pedal. So they had, some of them have been driving since they're like 11 or 12. So I think it's just, and, you know, even when I'm doing a translation for a family, as soon as the phone, like that conversation is over, I get a call from them and they're like, but I want to know about this and this that I didn't feel comfortable asking, you know, the case manager. So I wouldn't say that it's a distrust. I don't think that they distrust, but it's, you have that personal connection, right? That maybe they understand me better. So I think it's really important, even if our community can't provide, you know, the financial support or jobs or housing, just to give them friendship, just to say, hey, I'm here if you need to talk. I know we all, mashallah, have busy lives, but I think just giving them sound advice and being for them emotionally goes just as long a way as financial support, as housing support. So there's something for everybody that can be done. Everyone can support in some way. Don't always think of it as monetary. Don't always think of it as a physical location. You know, I think sometimes friendship goes a lot longer than any of the other stuff. So there's always something that you can offer, and please look to the masjids or even just volunteering at the resettlement agencies to befriend them, to welcome them into your home and just give them a hand and friendship.
Thank you, Sister Huma. Thank you so much. Does anyone have anything to add or any questions that would like to be asked? Then I would like to go on and thank you all for all the work you do. Jazakum Allah khair. And us as a community, I hope we come at this really strong and support all the work you do. For the people in the Knoxville area, please go into the chat, get Sister Huma's number. For the people in the Nashville area, please, Nashville and West Tennessee, you can find all the information needed on amac.com. Is it amac.com or amactn.com?
Yeah, amactn.org.
.org. I'm sorry about that. amactn.org. Thank you, Sister Sabina. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Okay.